Festival Curta Cinema, ele foi o primeiro festival no Brasil a ser reconhecido pela academia, a ser qualificador para os curtas vencedores poderem preencher uma candidatura ao Oscar. Então, vocês vão saber por que é isso, como se dá a questão da qualificação dos filmes. E ali, então temos a presença do Tom Oyer, que faz a direção da parte de curtas e documentários da academia, e a Linda Olszewski, que é uma distribuidora, que trabalha como curta, promovendo curta, distribuindo curtas em várias outras plataformas, e que ela tem um grande trabalho também em promover os curtas para o Oscar, principalmente os curtas que estiveram no Oscar. E também como a mediação do Jorge Peregrino, que é o diretor-presidente da Academia Brasileira de Cinema, que tem menos anos do que talvez a Academia de Hollywood, os anos todos, mas é uma academia também importante. Eu acho que também discutir um pouco da importância da academia dentro da promoção do cinema, tanto nacional quanto internacional. Então, me deixa à vontade, eles vão falar nisso, né, e depois já vai ser aberto para perguntas para todos.
Bem, então vamos começar. Boa noite. Jorge Peregrino, presidente da Academia Brasileira de Cinema. Eu queria agradecer o convite que foi feito. A Academia Brasileira de Cinema ela tem total comprometimento com curta-metragem. Acho que é a primeira coisa a ser dita. A gente faz isso de que maneira? A gente, desde que a Academia foi fundada, há 18 anos atrás, ela tem 3 prêmios de curta-metragem: um curta de animação, um curta de ficção e um curta documentário. Né? Esses prêmios são dados dentro da noite da festa do Grande Prêmio Brasileiro, e os filmes que ganham os primeiros lugares em cada uma das categorias, através de uma parceria que a Academia Brasileira tem com a Academia Francesa, eles concorrem a uma vaga numa coisa chamada no IDOR, que é uma seleção de curtas-metragem, normalmente 35 curtas-metragem, que a Academia Francesa circula na Europa para promover. Eu estava falando com o Tom antes, que acho que o melhor processo, que na realidade vocês querem ouvir mesmo, é o Tom e a Linda, eu acho. Né? Então, que a melhor forma de começar, e como o Tom é a pessoa que está metida com a questão de organização, de seleção de filmes de curta-metragem e documentários dentro da Academia Americana, eu vou somente descrever rapidamente qual é o processo nosso de seleção aqui, como é que funciona, porque a nossa academia, infelizmente, não tem 1/10 da estrutura que você tem à sua disposição lá. Né? Mas, enfim, faz parte. Então, na realidade, o que a gente faz, né, eu até tomei nota aqui no lugar para não perder, rapidinho, o que a gente faz, tá aqui. Na realidade, o que a academia faz, como a quantidade de curtas produzida é muito grande, e acho que tem que ser muito grande mesmo, acho que a política que a gente tem de financiamento, minha opinião pessoal, ela está errada, né? Não há por que não reconhecer a necessidade de você ter curta-metragem, pelo fato de que o curta-metragem também é um laboratório, né, de criação de talentos novos. Mas como mesmo assim há uma produção muito grande, o que a academia fez, ela fez um acordo com diversas entidades que trabalham com curta-metragem, né, aqui no Brasil. Então é o seguinte, como a gente não tem uma estrutura grande de seleção, nem tem dinheiro para financiar essa coisa toda, que gasta-se muito dinheiro na questão de seleção, e agora atualmente com a tecnologia que existe fica muito mais complicado. O que é que a academia fez? A academia fez um acordo com várias instituições que trabalham com curta, né, e com todas as categorias: a ABCA, Associação Brasileira de Cinema de Animação, a Abracine, Associação Brasileira de Críticos de Cinema, o Festival Curta Cinema, o Festival É Tudo Verdade, o Fórum dos Festivais, Quinofórum e Porta Curta. Esses órgãos daí, né, essas entidades, né, elas são as responsáveis pela indicação dos curtas-metragens que concorrem ao prêmio anual dentro da academia. Foi a solução que a gente encontrou de ter uma expertise desse assunto, sem que atrapalhasse todo o processo, pela falta de dinheiro, na realidade. Então, eu só queria... Sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course. In Portuguese.
Oh, in Portuguese.
Or Spanish, up to you.
Ok, en español.
Isso.
I would like. Okay. Pues la pregunta es que los festivales que están nominados para el Academy, perdón, el Brazil Academy Award, pues la pregunta es que ¿es los premios de los festivales que son nominados o es otro?
É uma indicação de cada desses festivais com que a academia tem um acordo. Não é assim, o porta-curtas, por exemplo.
But so your academy has an agreement with the different festivals.
Yeah.
And so is it like for instance, if you serve on a jury, and is it the winners of each festival that are nominated?
Não necessariamente.
Okay.
Não necessariamente. Cada uma dessas entidades ou associações, ou festivais, ou o que seja, com quem a academia tem essa parceria, eles indicam sob total responsabilidade, porque são eles que conhecem os filmes. Entendeu? Então, a academia depois, os membros da academia, depois é que vem os 5 filmes finalistas, e daí os membros da academia é que decidem qual será o melhor de animação, ou documentário, ou de ficção. É o processo que a gente encontrou aqui no Brasil, de manter isenção dessa escolha, porque você não pode escolher se você não vê todos, né? Então, foi esse processo que tem funcionado, já funciona ali há 18 anos, entendeu? Mas então, eu só queria fazer essa interferência, já foi muito grande, e agora, eu acho que é o Tom, né? Primeiro é você. See you first or Tom first? Tom, good, so it's yours.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I will try to go through a little bit. My name is Tom Oyer. I'm with the Academy of Motion Pictures, and I'm in the Membership and Awards Department. In our department, we specifically oversee the awards process, the submission process, how films qualify, how they submit for consideration, and then we facilitate the voting process with our voting members throughout the year. I handle a bunch of different categories. I handle documentary feature, as well as all 3 shorts categories, so that includes documentary short, animated short, and live action short. And within our department, we all have different roles and categories that we oversee. So every category is built differently, and we have processes for all of them. But from that, what I can speak to today is the 3 shorts categories. The documentary, to help explain, where should I start? I'll start with qualification. So for short films in general with the Academy, there's a couple different ways that films can qualify. When you're on the feature level, most of the time feature films qualify through a theatrical release, but with shorts, we've had a film festival qualification process that have allowed films from around the world to qualify. And this process is basically, we have a list of qualifying festivals from around the world, both in animation and live action and in documentary, and specific juried awards at these festivals. If a film wins the juried award, then they are automatically eligible to submit. Not automatically eligible considered, they have to then go through the steps of submitting it, which I'll get to later. But basically, the initial process of when we say qualifying festival, we are saying a specific juried award, and the film must win that juried award. Sometimes I think people are confused and think that if you're in competition, or if you're screen at that festival, but it really is the film that wins the specific awards. From there, we also have a process by which films can play in a theater in Los Angeles to qualify as well. So there are the 2 different processes. The theatrical qualifications for a 1-week run in Los Angeles, and obviously for a lot of international filmmakers, that's, other side of the world. So that is why we have the qualifying process that we do with the festivals, is because we want to be able to get all the best short films from around the world included in the process. So we have those 2 different ways that films qualify, and then from there the submission process is simply an online submission, and there's certain requirements that each category has, and we always want to make sure people are aware that if you win that award, you still have to go through the process of submitting the film to be considered. From that point, then we interface with our voting members to actually facilitate the category. And that process is we do both screenings of the films for members who are in Los Angeles, or for animation we do New York. But we have members who live all over the world, and the whole point is that we want it to be, it's a global organization, and we want our members everywhere to have access to view the films and vote. So 3 or 4 years ago, I think, we instituted a streaming platform within our member portal, and so we actually have a process by which our members all around the world have access to the films, can go and vote and view the films, and then they will be able to vote to contribute towards the process. So the way, sorry about that. The way it works, the members who are voting are the experts in their particular category. So for documentary, the members are in different branches of the Academy based on their expertise. So you'll have actors, writers, directors, cinematographers, a variety of craft categories. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the nominees for each category are determined by the members of that branch that know that expertise the most. So that's why if you notice on nominations, you'll have directors will have different nominees from writers, different nominees from cinematographers or editing. So just so people understand how the actual members are organized and structured. The reason I say that is because with documentary short, that's the documentary branch that votes on those categories. So those are documentary directors, producers, editors, cinematographers, all types of people in the documentary community that are viewing and voting on both the doc feature and doc short categories. So they are viewing those films on the streaming platform.
Turn off your thing.
Oh, that's probably it.
It's translated.
There we go. Okay. So the members of the documentary branch are the ones that view and then vote on the films to determine who the process. On the live action and animated side, they're in a branch called the short films and feature animation branch, and so that's comprised of members that are live action narrative short filmmakers, animated short filmmakers, other folks that work in animation, whether at studios or other independent animation studios all around the world. We get a lot of those members to volunteer and participate in viewing either the animated shorts or narrative or the live action shorts, both of those competitions. And so then the members who volunteer, they have to see a certain percentage of the films to qualify their vote. They put in the time, and I always kind of walk people through this, that if a member is going to take the time to really go through and watch these films, they're into it, they're dedicated, and they're not going to be taking that lightly if they're putting in that amount of time. From there, we have a round of voting in December that narrows down the full list of eligible titles to the 10 films that are on the short list in all three categories. So we'll be announcing those in December, and those films then go on to another round of voting where they narrow down the 10 films down to 5 nominees. And then from there, this is a year-round process. Then from there, we have the 5 nominees, and that's when we open it to the entire Academy membership. So we have about 8,000 members now worldwide, and so when we have the nominees, they can vote for the winner in all 24 categories. So that's when we open it up to the entire membership. And then you have actors, writers, directors, producers, people from all variety of branches viewing and voting on the films. And then that's how we determine our actual Oscar winner. And then once we get through that, then the submission process begins all over again, and we have more films qualifying and submitting again for the next year. So that's my summation of the process.
Quick question. Uma pergunta, Tom. Você falou que live action is in LA and animation is in New York. Why that? No? You said that.
I said we do screenings of both animation and live action in LA, but we only do an additional one in New York because there happens to be a pocket of independent animators that live there, but a majority of our members who are available to attend screenings are in LA.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then for documentary, we do not actually do screenings because they're the most geodiverse branch we have in the Academy, so they live all over the world. Only about a third of the branch lives in New York, a third in LA, and the other third all over, spread all over the world. So that's why we use the streaming platform instead.
Tom, do you still have the DVDs? Do you still have the DVD thing
No,
for
no.
different
No,
docs?
no.
Yeah, okay. Hi, can you hear me? I'm Linda Olszewski, and so I'm also an Academy member in the short film and feature animation branch. And the first question I want to ask is, how many of you believe that the short films can be bought Like because I know that that's one of the things when I was working with the Chilean filmmakers from Historia de Oso. They believed that there was a lot of the press that believed that people could buy for votes. How many of you believe that that's possible? Like, did you can pay for votes? Because I just wanted to bring this up, that the process that Tom spoke of as Academy members is people in the Academy, when they're looking at the films, they're voting with their heart. And it's really, they have the commitment, they love shorts, they want to get and support the filmmakers or the animators, and they can't be bought. So it's just one of these myths that I just wanted to dispel at the beginning, just to let you know that people in the Academy, it's really a democratic process. It's a secret vote, and people don't really discuss. I mean, they might just say films they like or this and that, but it's really about loving a film and voting for a film, or maybe they've met the filmmakers as well and they're really nice and they want to support them as well and root for them, but it's really about the Academy members voting and loving the film and getting behind it. So I work in distribution, and so in 2006 or in 2005 I met Frank Pearson at the time, who was the president of the Academy, and one of the governors named John Bloom, who was the chair of the short film and feature animation branch. They, at the time, the Oscar shorts were never seen by the public. It bothered me personally because every year my Oscar pool would be ruined by not knowing what the Oscar shorts were. I would just pick like a clever title and hope for the best. But I'd go and see all the feature films in every category. I was a real geek that way, loved cinema, would go and pay for every film and wanted to make sure that I was like a voting member, even though I wasn't. And at that time, they approached me because I was working for a company called The Hatchery, and we were all on a panel together, and they wanted the Oscar shorts to be put into theaters. And at that time, my company, that I went back to and talked to them about the Oscar release, potentially doing an Oscar release. They weren't interested. I tried to get DreamWorks on board because I used to work at DreamWorks, and they weren't interested. And I tried to get Universal on board because I also did work at Universal, and there was no interest. So. But I met with a gentleman named Carter Pilcher, who was just starting a company called Shorts International. And he had just, at that time, Steve Jobs had just announced the video iPod. So this was in 2005, November of 2005. And Carter was going to go meet with the folks from iTunes, and they said, and he asked me, what would you pitch? And I was like, the Oscar shorts. Because maybe we can launch shorts on iTunes with the Oscar shorts, because Steve Jobs wanted to launch shorts on iTunes and movies on iTunes and all kinds of things. So after his meeting, he called me, he said they loved the idea, and when could I start? And so I started working for him in January of 2006, and the idea was to get the shorts on iTunes as well as to get the shorts in theaters. And that was because the Academy wanted them in theaters. So we started that process, and we launched the shorts about a month later in theaters in 13 cinemas. The theatrical release has grown to, in the US, it's about 600 cinemas in North America. Last year, our gross box office was $3.5 million, which is shared with the nominees. We do 3 separate releases. We do one for the fiction, we do one for animation, and we do a separate one for documentaries. In the animations, because the release the films tend to be short, we also add some highly commended films, which tend to be shortlisted films as well. Or maybe there's a favorite that we loved and wish they had gotten to the short list, and we want to share it with the global public. We make the theatrical release available in theaters all over the world. It's in limited releases in different countries, and we also make them available on places. And in Brazil, you can actually find the Oscar shorts on iTunes. We make them available in about 100 countries on iTunes. in 4 countries for Amazon. We make them available on Shorts TV, and we've got a new channel called TV Cortos, which will be as well. We make them available we have different partners. Last year we were able to sell them to, or make them available on American Airlines and JetBlue, and to many different also TV channels around the world. They'll buy the package of shorts, or sometimes they'll buy individual shorts. My job is to, as I'm serving on juries and panels, I'm always interested in seeing films that I think have a lot of potential, and maybe they've won a lot of festivals, but maybe never the right prize at an Academy qualifying festival. They might have won a jury, a lot of audience prizes, maybe a certain special jury mention, but maybe not quite the prize that would Oscar qualify them. So when I see films like that, we'll actually do an Oscar qualifying run in Los Angeles to Oscar qualify some films. I also, when I see some films, I'll support filmmakers in terms of helping them figure out an Academy strategy or festival strategy. Like, for instance, I'm serving here in a jury. I'm looking at the Brazilian shorts, and there may be a film or two that I just feel are quite strong, and and then in that situation, I may meet with filmmakers and help guide them in terms of the Oscar qualifying list, or like which festivals might be a good fit for them to try to Oscar qualify that way. Also, our Shorts TV is doing a Best of Latin America festival right now, and I'm going to give you my email so that I can send you the link to apply. I encourage you to apply for this because it's free to submit, and the top, at least the top 3 films, possibly 5 films, will be part of a theatrical run in Los Angeles, which will Oscar qualify your film. And so my email, I'll give that to you now, is L, and then it's dot, and it's my whole last name, which is crazy. Listen to it's OLS, Z as in zebra, E, so it's EWSKI at shorts.tv. So it's L.OLS.ZEWSKI at shorts.tv. Just if you want to apply for the Best of Brazilian shorts, you can send me just a request in an email, very short, and I'll send you the link so that you guys can apply. So that's a little bit about the Oscar release.
Of course. I was thinking through, there's a couple things I just want to give filmmakers a guide on, because these are questions people usually come up with. One is regarding eligibility. You know, people always ask about the online and when my film can be online and what would that affect by eligibility. And so just want to make it clear on that process. We used to have a rule that you couldn't have any online or television broadcast or anything prior to qualifying. That rule was changed about 4 years ago, I think, for the festivals. Basically, if you're going to do a qualifying run in a theater in Los Angeles, if that eventually happens, the film couldn't have been online or been on television or anything prior to that. But if you win one of the juried awards, we made a rule change that basically if the film is of the quality that it wins that juried award, we want it included in our competition regardless of whether it's been online or on television. So that's a rule change we made about 4 years ago. I think it's been a really good one as far as a compromise versus, allowing any film that's been online to then, worried about any, floodgate situation of a variety of films eventually qualifying. But once the film is qualified, whether you win a festival, whether it's been in theater, you are in the clear. You are in the clear that you could have the film online after that point. I just want to make that clear. That eligibility-wise, that's the line in the sand. That is where you qualify. Then it's up to the individual filmmakers to decide to make their decision on when they want the film to get out, in what way. that's all up to you, and that's the strategy, and that's what you talk with different individuals and people who manage your campaign or publicity or festival strategy. But I just get this question all the time from filmmakers that are worried that at any point before the actual Oscar ceremony, and I'm like, no, that's not the case. It's really just about the qualification. And then from there, I do want to make sure that you are aware that you have, from the moment you have a locked film, a finished film, you have 2 years to qualify the film from the completion date. So you have 2 years, so what a lot of people will do is maybe I'll submit to, they might submit to festivals for a year, see if they win one of those qualifying awards, and if they don't, they may then pursue doing the theatrical to qualify. So I just want to kind of give some examples of that. But you have the 2-year window to qualify. I think some people get a finished film and they want to qualify it immediately, but I just want people to know that you do have those 2 years. So those are my other thoughts.
Can I just add this?
Okay, and just one other thing too is if your film is nominated, it's just something to keep in mind. It is preferred that the film not be online for free. You can be behind a paywall, you can be on Vimeo On Demand, on any of the other different platforms, it's fine. However, theaters don't like to reserve all those theaters, and one of the reasons why we've gotten so much success with having so many big theatrical chains showing the Oscar shorts is because the films there's a little bit of exclusivity in terms of the public can actually go and pay to see the films in theaters. So I'm just bringing that to your attention that if you're online, it's preferred to be behind some sort of paywall if your film is nominated for the theaters. Because if it turns out that all the films are not they're all for free on the internet, we've had some issues with some of the theaters saying, well, we don't really want to we don't want to support the Oscar shorts in this big. We'll do a handful of theaters. So in order to have a large release, it's important. So I'm just bringing that to your attention.
Eu trabalhei também com a DreamWorks e com Universal e com a Paramount muito tempo, né? E hoje, no mundo de hoje, com a quantidade de plataformas que existem, né? Sem falar das grandes, mas existem dezenas de pequenas plataformas digitais no mundo inteiro. Você acha que existe um mercado para short film, que seja documentário ou ficção, live action, animação, ou não existe? Porque o mercado de theatrical é o mais difícil para um curta-metragem, na minha opinião. Queria que você dissesse algo sobre isso.
Theatrically, the Oscar shorts is pretty much one of the only so your festival run is a short films theatrical run, and mostly for independent features as well. That's your theatrical run. So if you're thinking like a studio, that's your theatrical run. The Oscar shorts are an anomaly. They happen to be very successful. They're much more successful than most independent features in the U.S. We've been in the top 20 independent features ratings for years. But in terms of shorts, there's a lot of other opportunities. But can you survive? Like this is your full-time job with making short films and selling short films? I would say no. I would say that is your coffee budget, your Starbucks budget, or your host, what's it, cafe, who is it? Who is it, Juan Valdez? Is it Juan Valdez here? Or that's in Colombia, pardon.
Maybe Colombia, Valdez.
Yeah, Valdez
Seems to
is
be
Colombia.
Colombia.
Okay, well that's your coffee budget. Or it's, but you can make revenue and you can get your film seen on a number of platforms. And what I always advise filmmakers to do is think like a studio and value your work. So you put your film out first to festivals, and you've gotten a theatrical run. You've got your film seen by places people all around the world, hopefully. And then next, there are distributors. You can also, our TV channel that is new in Latin America, TV Cortos, we pay for short films, and I'm looking for Brazilian short films and Latino short films at the moment for Latin America. They're non-exclusive television licenses that the TV channel also will pay for Europe if your film is selected to go into Europe, or if it's selected to go into North America, they will also pay for that. We're also in India, there's that potential as well. The films can be sold potentially on places like iTunes, on Amazon. You yourself can put a film on Vimeo on demand. That is a great opportunity for short filmmakers because it's globally around the world, and as a filmmaker you make 90% of the revenue for all the revenue that comes in for your film. There are other opportunities. There are sales agents around the world that you potentially could work with. The company Shorts TV also has a distribution arm, and we do pick up select films for distribution, and when we do that, we sell films to other television entities as well as other, we'll make films available on places like Amazon and iTunes, as I mentioned before, and airlines. So there is potential. On average, short films, if we bring them under for distribution, if a film it doesn't do well, like it's really like kind of a stinker, just doesn't do well, a film will make about $2,000 over the course of about 5 years. But if a film does really well, and like let's say you get all the way to the Oscars, your film could make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 depending on what we are able to do with the film, and that's in your pocket. That's not us making those sales and then dividing it with you. That's actually in your pocket. So there's potential, but that's like winning the lottery. So like when you have like a nominated short or an Oscar winner. But in general, short films will make about $2,000, and on average, if your film is not a nominee, you could make up to about $10,000 or $15,000, depending on the subject matter of your film, the length of your film, and the genre of your film. If it's an animation, if it's a comedies sell well, animations sell well, especially non-dialogue animations that have a universal theme. Also too, if you are making a film that is edgy, consider not using a lot of profanity. Actually make a clean version, because right now what's going on is there is a wide use of profane language in short filmmaking. We've noticed this phenomena in the last couple of years, and it's difficult because television channels won't buy it. Also, so if you know, that's just one thing. And the other thing too is if your film is steamy, like kind of sexy, consider making one version where it's for television, where it's kind of clean, but you know, gets to the steamy part, but you're not too steamy. And then you can also do another part that's steamy, because there are some channels that actually want steamy. So you can do two versions.
A primeira pergunta é por que, eu entendi assim, até hoje você é obrigado a fazer um one week theatrical release in LA? Qual a razão desse request?
Can you repeat it? Is it
1 week commercial release in LA, you have to, or no? If your film must qualify.
Yeah.
So you have to do 1 week there.
Well,
Okay, get it.
that's an option. It's for people that if they want to qualify it, if let's say they have a television broadcast date, you know, a lot of films have television financing and they're up against a deadline that they need to qualify it by, they can do that theatrical run to do the qualification. And I think the reason we have that is we are a theatrical award, and that's the founding nature of our organization and our award. And so still having the theatrical component as an option is why that is there. But then the festival qualification process, they don't have to do that theatrical. That's
Okay,
just
good.
the straight. No, yeah. So it's we have that as an option, but any of the films that win those awards, they don't have to do the theatrical.
Então aí vem a segunda pergunta. A Academia Americana, ela vai ser sempre theatrical, ou ela não vai encarar uma realidade nova que tem de streaming por aí, não, que está rolando aí no mundo?
As I said, We were created as a theatrical organization
I know that.
in 1927. So there, I will say that the rules have evolved and changed over the years. The example of the festivals not like could have been online or on television before is a symbol of the evolution.
Mm-hmm.
That used to be for decades a hard no. We were able to get that to change. We used to have a 60-day holdback period from theatrical, had to wait before it appeared on television or online. That was taken away about 5 or 6 years ago. Now it can be day and date. You can do VOD on the same day as theatrical.
Yeah.
That is obviously the Netflix model. That's obviously the model of other, other platforms. I don't know where, I think it's a matter of, there are people on the other side that feel like we should go back to having the 60-day window and not allow the same day and date. So there's a lot of different, different viewpoints on this subject. I think right now, the way how our rules kind of are in that middle zone. Where it'll evolve in the future as the future of theatrical goes, I don't. If I knew the answer, I would be in a different level. But it's one of those things that it's gonna be a matter of seeing how the industry evolves, and then we'll go along with that and see where that takes us. So.
Can I say one thing?
Of course.
I just wanted to add that the theatrical the theatrical run is I'm just going to emphasize this again, is really good if your film is winning a lot of festivals and you just didn't win that prize on the Academy qualifying list. But you may have been at Academy qualifying festivals and you won a different prize, or you won many audience awards, because that's when you should invest in a four-wall. And there are quite a few films this year that told me, they had been in a lot of Academy qualifying festivals. They won all these other prizes that didn't qualify them, so they decided to invest in the Oscar qualification run. That's when you should consider that, because then your film is on a roll, that you're getting a lot of support. You just haven't quite hit the specific prize on the Academy qualifying list for that festival.
É uma grande jornada. É uma grande... Enfim, mudanças vão acontecer, né? Várias das academias do mundo, principalmente os de fala ibero-americana, já estão admitindo isso também, né? Que você abriu um pouco mais para fora do theatrical também, né? Então, eu entendo perfeitamente o teu ponto de valorização da plataforma de cinema, mas a questão que, né, a realidade muda muito. A realidade está mudando muito. Outro dia eu estava, por várias razões, eu fiquei amigo do Jeff Katzenberg, da DreamWorks. E ele lançou há pouco mais de, 6 meses, 8 meses, nos Estados Unidos, junto com a Meg Whitman, que era a mulher que era chefe da HP, a executiva mais poderosa dos Estados Unidos. O Jeffrey juntou com a Meg, né, e eles levantaram $2 bilhões e lançaram uma empresa chamada News TV, né, que vai produzir somente uma coisa: conteúdo de 10 minutos de alto valor de produção para exibir somente no celular. Entendeu? Eu tô somente mencionando isso daí porque são coisas que estão acontecendo no mundo inteiro. O Bob Iger, que é o cara que é o CEO da Disney, nessa operação toda de aquisição da Fox, o Bob Iger deu uma declaração semana passada no Variety, dizendo o seguinte, que a única divisão da Fox que ele não fecharia, porque aqui eu já levo pro Tom, a única divisão que ele tem certeza da Fox que ele não fecharia era Fox Classics, Fox 2000, porque produzia filmes como A Forma da Água, que ganhavam prêmios em festivais e que isso servia como arma de venda para o streaming, estou dizendo. Então, eu acho que isso é uma dica para você falar um pouco da importância, se você tem informação sobre a importância, o impacto que causa a premiação da Academia Americana num short film, né? E para a Linda falar um pouco também sobre esse mercado novo que Katzenberg e Whitman estão apostando. Eu não sei se vai acontecer, mas levantaram muito dinheiro para isso.
I am so happy that Jeffrey finally finally realized short films are cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when I tried to do the Oscars, I tried to start a shorts division at DreamWorks. I used to run the DreamWorks Short Film Festival with some friends. This was during the time when, in 1995 to 2000, when the short films, nobody could see short films because only on film prints. So, and we wanted to see each other's films because we were all just started this new studio. I was the number 13th person hired at DreamWorks. At one point, I was actually Jeffrey's assistant, one of his assistants, a very lowly assistant. And but I would do the film festival. I would intro the festival every year. Stephen, the first year, put his short film Amblin in it to serve as inspiration. Because we were letting him know he doesn't like the film. And he feels it's not very good, and so he didn't want to like put it out there to us in a theatrical setting, like to share it like that. But we were saying this is terrific because it proves that people can grow from a short film, and then look at you now. So he did it. He agreed. And we used to do this festival every year, and it was really popular. And I wanted to grow the film festival into a shorts division. And they all thought it was interesting and everything. And I had this little business plan called Quick Flicks. And I went to every head of the studio, theatrical, television, the person that sold to ancillary markets like airlines, and everybody agreed to support it. And I figured out how it would make money. So, like for instance, it would pay for itself, and our revenue was about 1.5 million every year, which I thought was terrific. But when Jeffrey saw the plan, he just said, "But that's my catering budget for Shrek." You know, so he was like, "I want real money. If you're telling me it's going to make 1.5 billion, let's talk." And so I'm so happy that he wants to finally do this. It's taken 20 years, and he's finally on board. But I suspect also, you know, in the year 2000, I left DreamWorks and went to work for a company called EVO, and we were YouTube before YouTube. And so we were doing 3-minute little shorts. We were picking up 3-minute shorts, and we were putting them online for people to watch on their phones or whatever, but like their Palm Pilot. But the reality was nothing was set up yet. It was 56K, even in some of the countries. Like when I went to Greece, I didn't know that they didn't have internet until I got there, because I was going to talk to them about seeing shorts on the internet, and they were like, "What is the internet?" Because they didn't have internet in Greece yet in the year 2000. So we, it's great to see how things have progressed, and it took 20 years, and now it's the norm. I mean, how many of you, when you're watching anything, you're always like watching some sort of short film or some sort of TV show or something on your shorts, right? I mean, your mobile phones, right? It's just standard. So it took 20 years for all of everything to catch up. So anyway, what was your question? I just got so excited because I'm so excited with Jeffrey. And Ann Daly, who also, by the way, Ann was the person that I was running all these ideas by. And she said that in future, whenever she went to Jeffrey for anything, she would, because I had listed every person that supported Quick Flicks at the studio and had a long list of people. And then she thought it was pretty cool, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah. So along some of those lines, what I can at least speak to, you know, like I said, the rules are going to be adapting over time. You know, each year they go through rule changes and procedures. You know, in the last couple of years, we've been dealing with the same question when you look at VR and the influence that that has.
Yeah.
And we gave an honorary Oscar to Alejandro Iñárritu for his VR work, which was unprecedented in that regard. Because technically, it's something that's not theatrical, and they decided it was of a caliber that they wanted to recognize it. A couple of years ago, we had an animated short called Pearl, that that they had a VR version of that film online, but they qualified a 2D version for our purposes. But then a lot of people assumed that the VR version is what got nominated, and we nominated a VR short. Depends who you ask. But the reality is that there's this, I think VR's in this same boat of, and we're seeing how that will evolve, and how will that evolve over the next time, the next amount of 10 years or so. And even, like I said, when we took away the rule about the no online or television for festival winners, that enabled the festival programmers to make their own decision. And I think different festivals have different policies on that. Some are very strict, no online prior to being submitted, so that's another thing to keep an eye out for when you're submitting to festivals, is just being aware that each festival has their own policy. And our rules were dictating festival policy, and so by taking that out, we're giving them the freedom to program what they want. So I think that's a key thing where, we're seeing how the festivals adapt to that as well. It's a whole industry thing, and there you go.
Concordo contigo, Tom. Eu estou dizendo somente o seguinte, que as mudanças elas estão acontecendo numa velocidade tão grande, né? The changes, né? Numa velocidade tão grande que é uma realidade que você não vai poder mais ignorar. Não estou falando como academia, isso é opinião pessoal, é só uma discussão, que a pressão é muito grande. E para a Linda, eu acho que essa coisa do Katzenberg, né, de produzir conteúdo de alto valor de produção para exibir sem comercial no móvel, né, com o running time máximo de 10 minutos, também é uma demonstração, eu acho, que aí pode ter um mercado que vai surgir. Né? Eu acho que, somente para afirmar, acho que talvez fosse bom, se vocês quiserem falar algo, então a gente começar a abrir um pouco para perguntas, se houver alguma. Se você quiser comentar agora, você comenta, o Tom também, depois a gente deveria abrir para a audiência um pouco, para que eles façam alguma questão, se eles tiverem. Você não acha?
One thing I've learned about, I'll just speak a little bit to the Jeffrey question first, is I understand that Jeffrey is set up, he raised all this money, but he's setting up infrastructure. So he's not just, there are different people that will launch a platform and then they just sort of hope or market a little bit and then hope. But Jeffrey's smarter than that, and Jeffrey has been going to all the different studios and different entities to make sure that things are set up before he launches. He's going to make sure that this has potential to launch to a success. And I would tend to think it's going to be films or 10-minute films that are going to be universal in theme. You have to think in terms of, Jeffrey thinks in terms of Shrek, in terms of ants. Some of these are, Madagascar. Like he is commercial, so he's going to be thinking about commercial. He's going to be thinking about global audience that will want to go to mobile, and everything is going in a sense to mobile anyway. I mean, if cable television is on its way out, I mean it's hanging on at certain parts by a thread. But even our TV channel has an app, so that it's being integrated to mobile, and you can watch the channel through. The subscribers can watch it on your iPad or your phone. So so it's all moving in that direction. And if how many people here pay for actual cable TV or direct TV?
Expensive in Brazil, it's crazy.
Yeah. There's just a couple. It's kind of in the same in the U.S. There's short. I would say probably, I don't know what
Cable
the percentage
cutters.
or the cable, they call them cord cutters.
Cord cutters,
Yeah.
And one.
So I have cable actually because I work for a cable channel, but I'm one subscriber for them. So he set that up. So I would make sure that if you're looking to try to pitch something to Jeffrey, just make sure it's universal.
Linda, uma pergunta. Você falou no cable. No Brasil, a assinatura é extremamente cara no Brasil. Extremamente cara no Brasil. Um pacote top, premium, custa em torno de quase $100 mensais. Se não me engano, com $3 alguma coisa. O premium né, da NET. Quanto é que custa lá para você? How much you pay?
It's actually a little more in the
Wow.
US, so it's crazy. It depends
So I
on
cut it.
which carrier that you have, but it usually will include internet and it will usually include some phone,
too.
and it's an HT tier, but I think because I split it with somebody that, some people I live with, and so my bill, it ends up, our bill is about, between the three, it's almost $200 a month.
300?
200. Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah. It's absolutely
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So cannot survive. Oh,
I don't have it.
não? Gente, eu acho o seguinte, eu acho que o tempo que nos foi dado.
I just want to say one other thing. Years ago, I started going to Chile every year because I had a feeling that there was talent in Chile, and I wanted to put the word out that they could try to get an Academy Award, that it was democratic, and to just make good films that could speak to a global audience. And you know, the guys from Bear Story heard that, and they ended up winning the Oscar, Historia do Oso. I'm just putting that out to you as Brazilian filmmakers, that if you want to go for that dream, you should try. I mean, it is like winning the lottery, but the guys in Chile did it. So I'm just letting you know, because I know Brazil has not won an Oscar, and that was, Bear Story was the first Oscar for Chile.
Eu acho que agora seria essa questão de quem quiser fazer algum tipo de pergunta para o Tom ou para a Linda. A hora seria essa. A gente tem mais alguns 20 minutos ainda de conversa. Então, é melhor pegar o microfone.
Não, Tom, eu queria saber quando vai acabar com essa loucura da gente ter que mandar 100 DVDs para os filmes que são qualificados para Los Angeles.
You're asking about, we don't require DVDs anymore.
Não, porque ano passado meu curta foi qualificado e eu tive que mandar 100 DVDs.
We don't have that, we eliminated that. Thank you for sending those. Thank you for sending those, but yes, I understand, I got much feedback, don't worry, and we have been able to phase that out for doc shorts. Not quite yet for doc features, but we are transitioning to streaming only. Yeah.
Eu queria saber essa questão que parece que existia, de alguma forma, uma certa hierarquia ou preferência por curtas de drama e comédia. Então eu queria entender um pouco melhor também como é essa visão que o Oscar tem de filmes como musical, terror, fantasia, principalmente ficção científica e tal, porque parece sempre haver uma hierarquia em drama e comédia ser mais qualificável do que outros gêneros. Só que o mundo tem muitos interesses, né? Entender só isso. E como vocês veem isso pessoalmente?
Yeah. Do you mean for, I'm sorry, do you mean for short or for all categories?
Both.
Both? Okay. Well, I think at the end of the day, I mean, it's a group of, we have a group of members and they all individually vote, like we were talking about, and they're filling out their ballot and they're making choices on what they vote for. And I think there's different reasons why people vote the way they do. As far as, like, if you're talking about horror, I mean, the phrase I always hear, you know, people say, well, maybe that's not Oscar type, you know, but there's always that concept of what is an Oscar-winning film or what is an Oscar-type film. There's definitely an idea of what is an Oscar-type film. I mean, in the 90s, the joke of documentary is always that, well, if it's a Holocaust documentary, then it's right up, you know, like there's this certain conceptions historically that are definitely, there's patterns. I totally understand that. I think the reality is that in the last few years, we have added like hundreds of new members worldwide to try to expand the field so that it's not just a smaller pool. So you have to remember that 10 years ago, the Academy was maybe 5,000 members. It's now 8,000, close to 9,000 members and more global, and you know, things are evolving. We're trying to get different perspectives in there to help shake up what is an Oscar type film. A film like Get Out was not an Oscar type film, and 5 years ago that film would not have been nominated. So I think it is evolving, and each category has their own process they're going through. With the shorts, do you want to speak? I mean, shorts specifically?
I will say one thing in that if your film it's got to be excellent, like on all layers, all levels, cinematography, story, acting, editing, direction, music. I mean, just every aspect of the filmmaking genre, filmmaking process is excellent. So that the cream rises. In addition to that, I will add this. There are a lot of films. I would also say two things. One is make sure you're making a film that you know something about. That is, it's better if it's original and fresh and you somehow a personal story. The reason I bring that to your attention is it's pretty evident when you're seeing so many films, the films that tend to rise to the top are the films that there's some sort of personal aspect to the story. A good example, again, I'll go back to Bear Story. This was Gabriel's grandfather's story. You know, he was exiled to the UK during the Pinochet regime. So it was a story about a family should be together, but it was also a personal story. And that's why he used the medium of animation to say something that hurt him growing up and hurt his father growing up, because he was without his grandfather and his father was without his father for so long. So that's something that's really important. But I will also say that if you have an incredible comedy and you're just gifted in comedy, in general, people like to laugh. And if when we're looking at all the films, and if you happen to see a film that is a really good comedy after you've seen a lot of drama, it will stand out. But it must be good. It can't be a mediocre comedy. It must be phenomenal comedy. Phenomenal comedy would be terrific as well. I also think it's interesting when you see films that mix genres. So when you have that happening and it's fresh and original, that's the kind of thing that just stands out. When you're going through masses of films, watching all these films one after another, and you're really trying to spend time with the films, looking at all the films, it's just films that are freshly told. Because everything's already been done. You know that. Every story's been told. You already know that. But if it's your unique voice, because you see, every person in this room sees the world differently. If there were a car crash that were to happen and we all witness it, we would all have a different story on the car crash. So make sure that you're bringing your unique voice to the process, and then you'll be well on your way.
Eu queria saber um pouco mais sobre a questão também da academia dos prêmios universitários, que também se qualificam também para os prêmios de curta-metragem. Se vocês dois viram algum tipo de filme brasileiro de curta-metragem que tenha impactado vocês, ou pelo menos da América Latina.
So you mean the Student Academy Awards? Yes, so that's I don't have time to do that one. So another colleague of mine, Sean, he oversees the Student Academy Awards that are submitted through the universities, the university film schools, and so we have both domestic and international prizes. And so I don't know, has anybody here submitted to that before, or, okay. But that is something that they've been really working to expand internationally and have more international film schools involved, so I can definitely try to talk to my colleague on that.
I actually know a little bit about
Okay,
that.
good, yeah.
I actually know a little bit about the Student Academy Awards qualification, and because I actually have been participating ever since I become an Academy member. I'm one of the people that does the work and looks at the student films, and I have seen Brazilian films in there. They just opened it up because it used to be just select schools were able to submit. However, now for international, if you have participated in 2 festivals, I think they're Academy qualifying festivals. If you participated in 2 Academy qualifying festivals, you can submit your film for a Student Academy Award if it's done through your university, and it was specifically for your curriculum, like to get a degree. You were looking, that was your thesis film, or a film you did in a film program, either for undergraduate or graduate.
And then, as far as Brazilian films, you mean specifically shorts, or, well, let me do both. I'll answer for both. There was one that was shortlisted a few years ago, but I can't remember. I'm blanking on the name. I'll have to.
Feature?
A short film. No, a live-action short film. There was a Brazilian filmmaker, and I can't remember the name now. I'll look it up when I take my phone off airplane mode.
It was The Factory.
The Factory. Yes, that's it.
It was brilliant.
It was great, and so I remember that year. I definitely wanted it to be nominated, but that's my personal opinion.
Great.
It was a great film, so I remember that. I always enjoy looking for the Brazilian films every year that we have. I also am a huge fan of Neighboring Sounds. As far as feature-length film, I think that's an extraordinary film. So, and there's others, obviously, but that one just more recently is the one that popped in my head.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking. I was just on the jury in Sao Paulo, and our winner was called The Orphan. And there was another film that we gave a special jury prize called, it was Auschwitz Copacabana, or Copacabana Auschwitz. That was the title. It was very good as well. And that's the kind of film, those are the kinds of films that should four-wall if they haven't already, if they don't Oscar qualify through their festivals, because they were both of them were very strong.
Mas, enfim, praticamente para encerrar minha participação, eu acho que faria uma pergunta para o Tom, uma outra pergunta para a Linda, e a gente encerraria por aqui. Né? E a pergunta para a Linda, né, é o seguinte: você disse há pouco que, do ponto de vista de criatividade, coisas novas, originalidade, você está olhando o Chile agora. Né? O Chile como exemplo de um país que ganhou o Oscar com Mulher Fantástica, aquele negócio todinho que a gente sabe, né? E que... A Mulher Fantástica, exatamente.
But that was the second Oscar from Chile.
Né? Isso está seguindo uma linha, né, que começa na Argentina, passa para o Chile, e está difícil de chegar no Brasil. Então, a minha pergunta para você, Linda, é por que você acha? É uma questão cultural, né? A colonização europeia na Argentina e no Chile foi tão forte assim, né? Que permite com que eles hoje façam, porque não são melhores do que nós, né? Um tipo de filme que agrade a todo mundo? Ou o que é?
Are you just asking me, like, why then?
What's your vision? Why? Você como uma estrangeira, né? Você foi para o Chile, não tinha ido para a Argentina antes, aquele negócio todo. E se você pegar, the amount of Oscars that Brazil won, in 50 years, 60 years, it's nothing when you compare to Argentina and compare to Chile. And my point is, why is that? What is your view? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, I think, so when I'm going to talk about short films,
Yeah, in general.
I'm not going to talk about the features, but I think in short films, and then I'm going to sound very philosophical, but that's okay. I think the universe seeds people with some sort of inspiration. I think there's, it seems like the films that really have a lot of heart, really have a lot of passion, a lot of soul, there's some driving force, and you are, as a filmmaker, the vehicle. And I think that if, like, I'm just going to go back to Gabriel and Pato. This was Gabriel's story. It was a personal story, and he just had to make this. He teamed up with Bato, and they also used all kinds of animation to push the story forward. They used actually 5 types of animation within the short, if you really look at it, like creatively. And they really worked hard all the way through. I would say that I think it's Brazil's time, and I think that it's going to be up to you filmmakers to make something that really moves the world. But if it's a personal story and it's told from your viewpoint, and it's something that is a universal story as well, but it's personally told, I think that's the way to connect. I will bring one feature into the fold this year. A Fantastic Woman. For me, A Fantastic Woman, the feature film, made me like features again, because I love shorts. Short films, there's an opportunity for people to make a film that an studio executive is not telling you cannot make that film that way. You are so in the driver's seat to really create something fresh and the way you want to do it. And this feature film looked like it was a short filmmaker that was not tainted, that was completely 100% creative driving force, and every aspect of the filmmaking story pushed the story forward. He used, there was that scene with the wind, and the guy was, the woman was being blown away almost, and there's different things. Those are things that a short filmmaker would do, a really good short filmmaker. So I think, and I will say this, that one of the things that when I've been in the Academy screenings, I hear from members saying they want to see something new, what's fresh and new, something they haven't seen before. Avatar, when Avatar was honored, Avatar, the feature film, it was something that hadn't been seen before. So it was like things that are elevating cinema. So if your film has a universal theme, is freshly told in some way elevating cinema, then I think you have a good chance.
Tom, you want to say hello and goodbye?
Hello and goodbye. No, thank you all, and I'll be here obviously if anybody has questions. I'm happy to help explain and talk about.
Acho que é isso daí, a gente está no horário, tem pressão. Obrigado a vocês. E, enfim, eles estão aqui fora para conversarem, se vocês quiserem. Boa noite.